Nobody hit you. Nobody screamed. Your parents fed you, clothed you, sent you to school. By every visible standard, you were fine. So why does it still feel like something is missing? Why do you flinch at kindness, apologize for existing, and feel guilty every time you ask for help? What if the thing that hurt you was never what happened? It was what never did. We don't have a word for absence. We have words for what's done to us: abuse, violence, abandonment. But there's no word for the hug that never came. The question, how are you, really? That nobody asked. The silence where comfort should have been. Psychologists call it emotional neglect. And it's one of the most under-recognized forms of childhood wounding because it leaves no bruises, only patterns. And by the end of this video, you might recognize 7 of them in yourself. Let's start with a scene. You're 7 years old. You fall off your bike, scrape your knee, and run inside crying. Your parent looks up from whatever they're doing and says, "You're fine. Get up." Not cruel, not yelling, just dismissive. And you learn something in that exact moment, something you won't be able to put into words for another 20 years. My feelings are an inconvenience. Multiply that moment by 1,000 small interactions across your entire childhood, and you get an adult who doesn't know how to ask for help, who feels guilty for taking up space, who has no idea their needs are allowed to matter. Here's the first sign. You struggle to identify what you're feeling, not because you feel everything, but because no one ever sat with you and said, "That's called sadness," or "That's called fear," and it's okay. Emotions without language become noise. So you grew up calling it being dramatic or overreacting or just nothing. You learned to perform fine so fluently that even you started believing it. The second sign, you feel guilty resting. Productivity feels safe. Stillness feels dangerous. Because somewhere along the way, your worth got quietly tied to what you produce, not who you are. Nobody told you this directly. Nobody had to. A house where love is never spoken, but always conditional on being good. Easy. No trouble. That house teaches you that rest has to be earned. And even then, it never quite feels deserved. Third, you apologize constantly for things that aren't your fault. Bumping into a chair, asking a question, existing in a room. This isn't politeness. This is a nervous system that learned early and repeatedly that your presence might be a burden, so you preemptively shrink yourself to avoid being one. Fourth, and this one surprises people, you panic when someone is genuinely kind to you. Real warmth feels unfamiliar, even threatening. Some part of you is waiting for the catch, because consistent, unconditional care wasn't something you grew up trusting. So you either push it away, overanalyze it, or brace for it to disappear. Let's pause here for a second, because I want you to really sit with that one. Think about the last time someone complimented you or showed up for you without being asked. What was your first instinct? Gratitude or suspicion? That between what you deserve and what you can actually receive, that's the wound talking. Fifth, you feel like you have to earn love through usefulness. You're the friend who remembers everyone's birthday, who shows up for every crisis, who gives advice at 2 a.m. without complaint. And it's not because you're naturally generous, though you are. It's because somewhere inside, you believe that if you stop being useful, people will stop choosing you. Love to you has never felt unconditional. It's felt like a transaction you have to keep winning. Sixth, you struggle to know what you actually want. Ask yourself, right now, what do you want for dinner? What do you want out of this year? What do you actually want from your relationships? If you went blank, or immediately thought about what would be easiest for everyone else that's not indecision, that's a person who was never asked the question, what do you want? Enough times to learn how to answer it for themselves. And the seventh sign, You feel like a stranger in your own life, like you're watching it happen rather than living it, disconnected from your own needs, your own preferences, your own voice. This is what happens when a child's inner world is never reflected back to them, when no one mirrors your emotions, your curiosity, your personality. You don't develop a strong sense of self. You develop a finely tuned radar for what everyone else needs instead. Now, here's the twist, the part most people miss. Emotional neglect almost never comes from bad parents. It usually comes from parents who were themselves emotionally neglected, who were doing their absolute best with the only tools they had. Maybe they were exhausted, working two jobs, surviving their own unprocessed pain. Maybe their own parents never taught them how to sit with a child's feelings, so they couldn't pass down a skill they never received. This isn't about blame. It's about finally having a name for something that shaped you so you can stop assuming you were just born broken and start understanding you were shaped by absence, not malice. And here's the part that actually matters. Awareness is where it starts, not where it ends. You can learn, as an adult, what nobody taught you as a child. You can sit with your own emotions and name them slowly, without judgment. You can practice resting without earning it first. You can let someone be kind to you without immediately looking for the catch. It's slow and it's uncomfortable, but it's not permanent. If even one of these 7 signs felt familiar, you're not broken and you're not too sensitive. You just grew up in a quiet kind of absence that nobody ever taught you to name. And now that you can name it, you can finally start to heal it.